before I get started, I guess this evening, let me ask, how many of you, just with a show of hands, how many of you have ever had to go through something difficult in your life? Okay. 100%. All right. So we have a universal problem, uh, and a much needed answer as to what to do. So we're going to talk about the life of Joseph. I mentioned on Sunday morning we're going through some challenging situations in our life and how to flip the script on those things and possibly find good even out of the bad. And then I mentioned to you at the time that Joseph is a living example of exactly that, of going through these difficulties and challenges and how he makes it through is what we're going to talk about. So, life can be very tough at times. In fact, it can be really tough. And everyone faces trials, everyone faces challenges. Some of them are worse than others. Some of them just roar into your life and they assault you and they just knock you over, and it's just all of a sudden, bang, one time, here it is, bam, and it's in your face, and you just struggle with it. Others are like a dripping faucet that it's just day by day by day, it's just there, it's just there, it's just there, it nags, it's just constantly at us, and it leaves us exhausted, and we don't know what to do sometimes, how to respond to those. But they come to all of us. I mean, everybody faces these challenges. Everybody faces these troubles. So we're going to address some very difficult subjects from time to time in this quarter, and talk about what to do and how to deal with some of those kind of things. For you, it might be a 3 a.m. phone call that you got, and all of a sudden the shocking news that you have to kind of digest and process. For somebody else, it's a diagnosis that they get that makes it difficult for them, and they've got something that they have to face now, a diagnosis of a disease. For somebody else, it's a traumatic injury. Another person, it's a broken relationship. Somebody else, it's divorce papers. What other things can you think of that are those kinds of challenges that people face? What's that? Okay, problems with your children. Okay, all right. Somebody else? Huh? Okay, yeah, especially if they walk away from the Lord. Okay, I feel somebody over here. Health issues. Okay, Mickey? Okay, yeah, lose a job. I mean, it could be a financial crisis that comes as a result of that. Maybe it's only for a few days or a few weeks or months, but it might be something that lasts and lasts for a period of time. What else can you think of that you know? Legal issues, okay? Yeah, maybe something completely out of my control. Somebody sues me or whatever, or my company that I have. Abandonment. People are abandoned from time to time. Betrayal. I mean, there's just so many different things that can happen to us. So how do you react in those situations? I mean, how if that's you and the phone call at 3 a.m., or it's you and the devastating diagnosis, or it's you and how did you react? What do you do? Okay, sit down and have a pity party of look at woe is me. Nobody's had it like I've had it, and why did this come to me, and why did this fall in my lap, and I didn't deserve, whatever roads we go down, we sit down sometimes and have a pity party. Okay, what else can you think of? Huh? Pray. Okay, that would take a high road. You're a whole lot better answer than what we got. Okay, but the truth is, I mean, realistically, sometimes it is the pity party that leads to prayer. Okay, or whatever. What else can you think of? I mean, how do you react sometimes, or people react if you don't want to talk about yourself? Right, you sit there just like you are now in stunned silence, and you don't know what to do because you face this horrible situation that's come to you. What else do you? Yeah, Richard. Okay, yeah, maybe lean on somebody that you're going to try to get some counsel, some help, some direction, encouragement, strength, whatever that you call somebody. Mickey? Okay, so I mean, again, coming to the prayer and the idea of trying to get closer to the Lord. I mean, that's not the way that we always handle it. That's a great way. Linda? Okay, what's this going to do for them? Do them? How that and that's the phone call. Then it's the next phone call. Then it's the next phone call, or sometimes that's exactly what it is that we go through. Yeah, yeah. You just are frozen. Yeah, you just don't. Yeah, I mean, it's stunned silence almost. You just are so overwhelmed or struck. Yeah, okay, right. And if this hadn't happened, then this wouldn't have, and I wouldn't be in, or whatever the figuring is. Okay, some people throw a temper tantrum. I mean, they just can't. They lose it. Some people grow very cynical, and they find now a boogeyman behind every corner, behind every tree that they're looking for because this happened to me. Now I know, and I just become very cynical and negative. Some people just collapse under the weight. Some people gripe and complain. Do they really? Okay. Some people withdraw and push others away, and just the exact opposite of what Richard said a moment ago, that they try maybe to lean on somebody and find somebody. Sure. Okay. Yeah. But when it initially happens, my first response is not normally, I need to study. I mean, a lot of folks. Now, it might be I need to try to find an answer as to why did this happen. And again, it might be because I want to blame somebody, or it might be that, what did I do? I mean, maybe I internalized this situation. What did I do to cause this? Which maybe isn't has nothing to do with it at all. But all of these things are certainly true as to how we deal with issues or how problems come up and deal with it. And, I mean, the fact of the matter is we just don't always handle it the best. I mean, prayer, study, turn to God, rely on other brethren, those are all great answers, but a lot of times that's not what we do. We're just so overwhelmed, we don't maybe know what to do, so we don't do anything or whatever. Another way we sometimes react to it is we just deny it. That didn't really happen. That couldn't have happened, whatever the case is, and so I just deny it. I'm just going to reject that. Have you ever known of somebody deny the reality of something like that in their life? I mean, they just know that didn't actually happen. So I'm not. I just like I don't believe it. It didn't happen. I won't go down that road. I mean, what is that? What results from that? Yeah, it does. It just makes it worse. And later on, now I've got layer upon layer. Now I've still got the problem, and now I've got all these other things on top of that. And so it becomes even a bigger issue. So we need to remember that God is a compassionate and loving God. And that regardless of what comes to me, what hits me, what devastating news or what trial or tragedy or whatever it is that comes to me, to realize that God is compassionate and loving. And since none of us can get through life with unscathed, it is comforting to know that God does have answers. It's comforting to know there is a right way and a wrong way to handle things. So enter Joseph, and that's who we're going to be talking about this quarter. He was his father's favorite son, but at the same time, he was hated by his 10 older brothers. They so hated him, they even discussed killing him. One of the brothers stepped in and said, no, let's not do that. We don't want to have blood on our hands. So they concoct a plan. First of all, they just throw him down in a dry well and leave him down there. It appears while they eat lunch or something like that. They throw him into this dry well. Finally, they pull him out. He probably thought, okay, good, they've rethought this thing now. It would be some kind of a rescue, possibly. But they sell him as a slave to a traveling band of Ishmaelites that are coming through. His life goes from bad to worse. It only got worse. He's taken to a foreign country. He is sold a second time. Then he is lied about and he is falsely charged. He's unjustly thrown into prison and he's forgotten for years. Okay? I haven't had to face that before. Not anything to that extreme. I mean, I don't think my brothers liked me. I don't think they ever talked about killing me. And Huh? That's true. That's true. My brother Philip did throw me in a dryer and turn it on. So uh, he said that's why I'm so fluffy today. So uh, anyway, just thank you, Melissa, for bringing that up. That'll never be forgotten by this group now. Okay. So it does explain a lot. I agree. I have wondered, and then Melissa will remind me about this. So okay, we'll talk later, Melissa. Okay. All right. So I want you to turn to Genesis chapter 28 tonight. That's where we're going to start out. Genesis chapter 28. We're going to look at the historical background of Joseph. Okay. I know a lot of you already know the story of Joseph, but we have to back up. We have to get him born first. Okay. So we're going to start in Genesis chapter 28, beginning in verse 1. So Isaac called Jacob and blessed him, and commanded him, saying unto him, You shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel your mother's father, and from there take to yourself a wife from the daughters of Laban your mother's brother. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you, so that you may become a multitude of peoples. May he also give you the blessing of Abraham to you and to your descendants with you, so that you may possess the land where you live as a stranger, which God gave to Abraham. Then Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Padan Aram to Laban, the son of Bethuel, the Aramean, excuse me, the brother of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. Okay, so first of all, Isaac. Who is Isaac? What's his biggest claim to fame? Huh? Yeah, his father, okay? His biggest claim to fame is his father. We talk about Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and we know this about Abraham, we know this about Jacob, and we know this about Isaac. There's so very, very little given about Isaac. But Isaac now sends Jacob, and he says, okay, look, don't want you to marry one of the women down here. Want you to go up to our family, up to Haran, up to Padan Aram up there. And I want you to find a wife among the family that's there. So then look in chapter 29 and verse 1. And we'll just try to skip around a little bit. Then Jacob set out on his journey, and he went to the land of the people of the east. So here's what we're looking at. Some of you are familiar with this area of the Bible lands. You've got the Dead Sea is that blue. Let's see, is my pointer working on this or not? Look at that. It's not showing up very well there. I can see it until I get on the map. Okay. So anyway, the lower blue body of water is the Dead Sea. That's the Mediterranean on the left that you're looking at. The Jordan River up there to the Sea of Galilee is the next little body of water, then Lake Beulah above that. So Beersheba is where they are right now. Beersheba is close to Jerusalem down there, and they travel up to Haran, is the city in the area of Padan Aram. The area is Padan Aram. They're going up to the city of Haran, where he's going to actually find it. That's about a 450-mile trip. They didn't jump in their car and drive up there. I know they had caravans back there, but they were not Chrysler caravans. So it was walk or get on an animal and ride 450 miles. That's a pretty good trip, okay? To go find a wife is what he's going to do. That's his point. That's where he's going. So why, during the passage I skipped over, the part of it that I skipped over, the rest of chapter 28, is where God appears to Jacob in a dream. Now, why would he, if you know the Bible history at all about this, why would God appear to Jacob at this time as he is in the city of Bethel? Why would God do that? What's he doing for Jacob at that time? You know, this is when Jacob wrestles with an angel and so on. Some of you all know this story. Why would he do that? Rich? Okay, so part of it is, yeah, the reconfirming of the promise made back in Genesis chapter 12 that through your seed all the nations of the earth will be blessed, okay? And God makes this promise to them. What other reason can you think of? Huh? Okay, to show, yeah, that I'm with you. I'm here with you on this journey. There's another reason. That is, he's on the run from his brother Esau, okay? And probably needs some encouragement about this time, okay? He's on the run because he has deceived his father. He gained the blessing from his father that actually belonged to his brother Esau. And so he's on the run now. He's probably feeling a little, somewhat discouraged or down about this. So, let me ask you this way: has God ever encouraged you at a time when you blew it in your life? I mean, that was a stupid thing that I did. I shouldn't have done this. God ever encouraged you at a time like that? Okay, in what way? I mean, somebody tell me. Yes, sure. Okay, yeah, because I mean, we can crawl into a hole sometimes and just really feel badly about. I just can't believe I was so prideful or stupid or whatever, and I made this choice, this decision, and then beat myself up for days, weeks, months, years, sometimes. And you can have people come along and help and encourage. Okay, what you said something. Okay, okay, yeah, and so I mean, if I can come to that understanding, that's going to sure help me out. That's right. Um, and sometimes things just happen to seem to. Wasn't that amazing how that worked out? Okay, and we sometimes I think God providentially works so many ways and so many times that we don't give Him credit for, because we just kind of want to say, oh, that was just so coincidental or amazing how that worked out. Um, you know, why don't we want to give God credit for that? That's a good question. Why don't we want to give God credit for that at a time like that? Okay, yeah, they might think, oh no, Sharon's fallen off, she hit her head, and so what happened to Sharon? Okay, but yeah, I mean that can be the thinking of some people in that regard. Uh, but I mean, I can think of when I've messed up in my life where God has given me grace or others have shown me grace that I didn't deserve, because grace is unmerited, it's undeserved blessing or benefit or favor. And I can see how God's worked in that or is working in that same situation. So let's go on, chapter 29. Why don't you stay with me here? Uh, we're going to go over to chapter 29, verse 2. As the reading continues, he looked and he saw a well in the field, and behold, 3 flocks of sheep were lying there beside it, because they watered the flocks from that well. Now, the stone on the mouth of the well was large, and when all the flocks were gathered there, they would roll the stone from the mouth of the well and water the sheep. Then they would put the stone back in its place at the mouth of the well. Jacob said to them, my brothers, where are you from? And they said, we are from Haran. Wow, isn't that pretty amazing, okay? He stopped at a well. We're from Haran. That's where he was being sent to. So he said unto them, do you know Laban, the son of Nahor? And they said, oh, yeah, we know him. And he said unto them, is it well with him? And they said, yes, it's well with him. In fact, here comes his daughter Rachel is coming up to water her sheep. Well, wasn't that coincidental how that all worked out? Okay. Well, no, God is working here. God's orchestrating these events to happen in this way. Look, here she comes. She's coming right now to water her sheep. Look, it is still high in the day, and it's not time for the livestock to be gathered, to water the sheep and go pasture them. But they said, we cannot until all the flocks are gathered, and they roll the stone from the mouth of the well, and they water the sheep. While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, and she was a shepherdess. And when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of his mother's brother Laban, and the sheep of his mother's brother Laban, Jacob went up and rolled the stone from the mouth of the well and watered the flock of his mother's brother Laban. Wow, that's said there enough times, right? Then Jacob kissed Rachel and raised his voice and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was a relative of her father and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. So when Laban heard the news about about Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him, embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. And he told Laban all these things. And Laban said unto him, You certainly are my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him for a month. Then Laban said to Jacob, Because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what shall your wages be? Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful in figure and appearance. Now Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter Rachel. Laban said, It's better that I give her to you than to another man. Stay with me. So Jacob served him for 7 years for Rachel. And this beautiful verse that all the women always love, my wife fawns over. And they seemed to him like it was only a few days because of his love for her. Okay, so see, Melissa and I have been married over 45 years, and it just seems like it's been a couple of weeks. So I'm still working on it. No, but that, I mean, the picture is he's working. He works for 7 years for her, but it's just, he's so in love. I mean, he doesn't notice. He doesn't pay attention. It's just, this is all worth it, is the idea. Okay? And so, all right. That's a beautiful story. Okay? It works out exactly like it was supposed to work out. Then Jacob said to Laban, Give me my wife, for my time is completed, that I may have relations with her. Okay, the 7 years are up. I want my wife now. So Laban gathered all of the people in the place, held a feast, and now in the evening he took his daughter Leah and brought her to him, and Jacob had relations with her. And Laban also gave his female slave Zilpah to his daughter Leah as a slave. So it came about in the morning that, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, What is this that you've done to me? Was it not for Rachel that I served with you? Why then have you deceived me? So, if writing a musical score for this, and what's going on? What's the musical score now? Yeah, that's right. I mean, here it is. Dun, 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 dun. I mean, oh no. What happened? He gets up the next morning. This is not Rachel. This is Leah that he just married. And he says, What is this that you've done to me? Why then have you deceived me? Verse 26, but Laban said, It's not the practice in our place to marry off the younger before the firstborn. It's like, oh, okay. That answers it. Thanks. No. I mean, that's not how you work these things. And he said, Complete the week of this one, and we will give you the other one also for the service which you shall serve me for another 7 years. Jacob did so and completed her week, and he gave him his daughter Rachel as his wife. Laban also gave his female slave Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as a slave. So Jacob had relations with Rachel also, and indeed he loved Rachel more than Leah, and he served with Laban for another 7 years. And notice it doesn't say, and these seemed as only a few days. Okay? But how does this situation, I mean, that happens here, how does his dishonesty or his treachery, deception, whatever you want to say, that Laban does, how does that come back to show itself again and again as far as life is concerned and what goes on? And if you know the rest of the story, how does this affect them? Okay, but there's also there's this problem. Can you think of any problems with having multiple spouses at the same time? At the same time, okay. What problems could you think that might come up over that? Cat fights, okay. I don't like cats anyway, so I'm sorry, I don't. So what else? I mean, what can you think of? Jealousy. Anger. I mean, there's going to be some, I don't like the way she does this or he does that or whatever the case is. I mean, you could just see tremendous problems that would come up as a result of that. So that's going to play itself out, as if you know the rest of the story, as it were. But Jacob is deceived by Laban. So how does Rebekah and Jacob's dishonesty with Isaac? They plotted to take the birthright away from Esau, and there was deception that occurs with them. And how does that just kind of seemingly fall right back on them now, the next generation, that they're facing the same situation? So how does deception or deceit have these multiplying problems in anyone's life? What goes on with that? I mean, why do so many deceive, or why are they deceptive, try to be deceptive, when they know that doesn't work? Why do we try that? Okay, so it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah, and so, I mean, I've deceived this person, and now somebody else comes along and says, well, I didn't think it was it. Oh, okay, so now I have to come up with another lie to cover this one with this, and around it goes. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger as time goes on. So look at verses 29. We're not going to read through all of this tonight, but in chapter 29, verse 32 and forward is where we, excuse me, is where we have now the record of all of his children that are born unto him. Where am I at? 21. Yeah. Okay, so Jacob fathers 10 sons and 1 daughter through Leah. And then when Leah stopped having children, what does she do? She offers her handmaid or her slave and says, well, here, have some more children, and they'll be children of mine, birthed on my knees. So you can, and so he does. He has more children through this slave. Then you've got Rachel, who is barren, and what does she do? Here's my slave. Okay, here's my handmaid, and you can take her, and you can have children with her, and they will be children of mine. Okay, this goes on and on and on. So barren, look at chapter 29 and verse 31. Now the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, and he opened her womb, but Rachel was unable to have children. Okay, just so you know, it takes a little while to have 10 kids. Okay, so we're not talking this is a week or two that this went on, or a month or two. We're talking this went on for years. This went on for years, that here is this problem, that Jacob is married to Rachel and Leah, has 2 wives. He loves one more than he loves the other. Oh, that's going to be a problem. He's got the 2 handmaids of the 2 women. He's had children through these 2. That's going to be a problem in and of itself. And here is Rachel, his favorite wife, and she's barren. And she waits, and she waits, and she waits. And waiting is never easy. I don't care what we're talking about. Waiting is never easy. So what are some things that we can do when we're waiting for God to act, or waiting for something to happen to make the process easier? What can you do? What can I do in those situations? I'm waiting, and I'm waiting for God to do something. I'm waiting for God to act. I'm waiting for this to happen. And it just seems like it goes on for days, weeks, months, years. What can I do to help make that process easier? Keep busy. Okay? All right? Depends on what I'm waiting on, I guess. If I'm waiting on work and I don't have a job, so it's hard to. Okay, I could volunteer. You call Sandra. She could put you to work here at the church building. Okay, doing something. All right. What else? Okay, yeah, I mean, I can count my blessings in that sense of trying to recall what there is and what I do have, even though I don't have this, whatever I'm waiting for or waiting on. I mean, I'm pray. We talked about prayer before. I can look for answers. I can serve other people. There's lots of things that I can do. But again, the difficulty is there. I mean, how easy would this have been for Rachel? Let's put it that way. Not. Okay, yeah. Okay. I know the rest of y'all were able to talk because I've spoken with you before on different occasions. Um, but it is a situation where waiting is never an easy thing. And she's waiting and waiting and waiting. Do you think that they're trying to have children? Absolutely, they're trying, and it's just not working. Okay, she's barren. And so, I mean, she even accuses Jacob and says, give me a child. And he says, am I God? I mean, I can't do this. It's not of me to do it. So you might hear him say, I'm trying, as it were. Okay, but it's not working. Okay, but this situation goes on. He fathers 10 sons and one daughter, and Rachel still is barren. So look at verse 22. Verses 22 to 24 in chapter 30. Sorry, chapter 30, verse 22. It says, then God remembered Rachel. Does that mean he forgot her before? It says he remembered her. So, I mean, if Melissa asked me to stop by and get something at the store on the way home, and I forget, and then the next day I remember to do it, okay, I forgot. So has God forgotten her? So what does it mean? Okay. So what does it mean then? If he doesn't remember, I mean, if it says he remembered her, I mean, just give me another word here. God what? God thought about her. He brought it to my God. I mean, God's going to act and do something. Is the idea here? It's not that I forgot Rachel. I mean, that's not what God's doing here. But sometimes we read the Bible and because of the way we use words. So he remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb. So she conceived and gave birth to a son, and said, God has taken away my disgrace. And she named him Joseph, saying, may the Lord give me another son. So now we have Joseph is born. And he is born to who? Rachel, who is Jacob's favorite wife. So how is this child going to be treated? He's the favored child. Okay? He's the golden child who is born. Now, he's had all of these other kids, and quite often we read in the Bible that the firstborn is the special one who's treated specially, gets special honors, and so on. But that's not what we're going to find out here. Joseph is born. He appears to be and is the favorite one of the favorite wife. And so I think we need to picture Joseph at this time as kind of the pampered pet. He gets all the goodies. He gets to stay up later. His bedtime is not as early as his brothers were. He gets the best clothes. He doesn't have to wear hand-me-downs. In fact, we know he gets what? A coat of long sleeves, okay? Or many colors, it could be. It's either way in the Hebrew. And so, I mean, this is his young life is almost the picture of a spoiled child, okay? And so when he has his dreams, I don't want to go too far with this, but when he has his dreams, how do his brothers react? That's when they're ready to kill him, okay? Who do you think you are? You little peepsqueak. I mean, that's their idea. You're the runt of the litter. You're the youngest. And you think that we're going to bow down to you. You think this is going to happen, that's going to happen, so on. Is that what you... And they're outraged by all of this. But turn to chapter 35, let's see, I didn't put that down. Okay. But chapter 35, I want you to look at just a couple of verses, verse 16. 35, verse 16. Then they journeyed on from Bethel, but when there was still some distance to go at Ephrath, Rachel began to give birth, and she suffered severe difficulties in her labor. And when she had suffered severe difficulties in her labor, the midwife said unto her, do not fear, you have another son. And it came about as her soul was departing, for she died, that she named him Benoni, but the father called him Benjamin. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. And Jacob set up a memorial stone over her grave, that is the memorial stone of Rachel's grave to this day. And then Jacob journeyed on and pitched his tent beyond the Tower of Eder. So she actually has another child later on. She has a child, excuse me, that she names Benoni, which means the son of my sorrow. And then she dies. And Jacob says what? I'm not going to call him that every time I see him, the son of my sorrow, and thinking that. I call him Benjamin, which means the son of my right hand. And so he renames the child Benjamin. So the point of all this is literally just to set it up for us to understand where Joseph starts. This is his story. Joseph, the favored child of the favored wife. Okay, that's where it all begins. But here's the one point I want to leave with you specifically tonight. I learned this a number of years ago, 25 or so years ago, I guess, from L.A. Mott, who used to work with this congregation years and years ago. And L.A. was a great student of the Bible, a great teacher and student of the Bible. But one of the things he taught me was that when we read the Bible, we need to try to read it one page at a time. And by that, I mean most everybody in this auditorium tonight knows the story of Joseph and how it all works out, okay? And so it's easy for us, it's too easy for us sometimes to read and say, yeah, but this is how I got it all figured out. Everything's going to be okay. So what I want you to do is try to read the story of Joseph. And as we study, just try to look at the story of Joseph just with what you see in front of you that moment, okay? I read verses 5 to 9, and that's all that I know about Joseph. I don't know that anything else beyond. All I'm going to know is what I'm reading at the time. If I can do that, if you can do that, it will help you tremendously in actually understanding what the person is going through. Now, when I heard L.A. talk about this, he was talking about the Apostle Paul. So when we turn into the New Testament book of Acts and we start reading about the Apostle Paul, those of us who know, how does Paul start out in the Bible? How are we introduced to him? Yeah, he's a bad guy. He's a young guy standing there holding the coats of the people who are stoning Stephen to death. And it says he agrees with it, okay? But what we tend to do is think what? Oh, yeah, this becomes the Apostle Paul, and he does it and everything, blah, blah, blah. But at that time, there needs to be a loathing for Saul. That's how he's introduced to us, as this young man. And then what's the next picture of Saul? He's not the young man now. Now he's bent on destroying every Christian he can. He's going to drag them off, throw them into prison. He's going to be there for their death, if that's possible. And yet, to see him in that moment, read it one page at a time. If you'll read the story of Joseph, which incorporates chapters 37 to 50 of Exodus, and you'll just read it portion by portion by portion, page by page by page, I think you'll be amazed and blessed in that regard. So that's my encouragement. That's my challenge to you to try to do that as we go through this and start studying. It'll enhance your appreciation of Joseph and all that he endured, rather than to think, well, I know how it is, and it all works out at the end. Okay, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good, and that's what we oftentimes jump straight to chapter 50 when he talks to his brothers at the end of the story. But we don't know that. Okay, we don't know that yet. So just try to do it. All right, let's see if you have a question or thought or anything tonight about this background. That's all it was tonight, is just some historical background. We're going to move into his life and what he faces later. Nothing? I don't know anything about captivity. All I know is he's born. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That we need to try to read it one page at a time. And so all I know is that he's born. I jumped ahead to tell you about the birth just so you know that Rachel has another child. That was unfair of me to do. I should not have done that too. Okay. But in answer to your question, that is correct. He is born later on after he's taken, somebody said he was taken captive, I guess. I don't know that yet. So, but somebody said that. All right. Anything else tonight? Okay, so what do you know about Joseph? He was born. Okay, that's all you know. And you know his mom is, you know his dad, you know some of his stepbrothers, okay, at least by name anyway. But we don't know anything about Joseph other than that he was born, okay? And he's born the favored child of the favorite wife. And that's exactly right. So, there we go for tonight. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here tonight.